And we're going to finish our lecture today talking about systemic protozoal and helminthic infections. And we start with protozoal infections, systemic protozoal infections, and the first example will be malaria. As you remember from one of our previous lectures, malaria is caused by Plasmodium malaria. There are 4 different species we know today. And it is transmitted from human or infected animal by Anopheles mosquito. Plasmodium malaria has a complex life cycle. It has 2 circles, sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. And once again, we already covered the life cycle of Plasmodium malaria on one of our previous lectures. I just remind you that sexual reproduction occurs in mosquitoes' GI tract, and asexual reproduction of Plasmodium malaria occurs in the body of infected human or animal. So, incubation period of malaria is about 2 weeks. And the first symptoms patients develop when massive number of red blood cells get destroyed. Then patients develop symptoms of malaria, which are high fever, chills, headache, muscle aches, convulsions, anemia, jaundice, because a lot of hemoglobin gets into the bloodstream. The urine of those patients will turn black. We call it black water urine. The spleen of those patients will be enlarged. For the treatment of malaria, we use anti-malarial drugs, for example, chloroquine. And the vaccine is not available today because Plasmodium malaria has a complex life cycle. On this slide, you see a picture of child with malaria, and they show you that child has enlarged spleen. The next protozoal systemic infection is toxoplasmosis. And once again, we already talked about this infection in one of our previous lectures. It's caused by Toxoplasma gondii. Toxoplasmosis is what we call zoonosis because it infects humans, animals, reptiles, birds. Pretty much everything can be infected with this protozoal. But only in cats' gastrointestinal tract, Toxoplasma gondii reproduces sexually. In humans, this pathogen can infect any cell except red blood cells. People usually get infected after they ingest cysts of this pathogen, and as you see, 1/3 of US adults show seropositive results. It means 1/3 of US population has been infected once in their life. And for healthy individuals, this infection is not life-threatening. A lot of patients do not develop symptoms at all, and just immune system will take care about that infection, and those patients simply develop immunity against this pathogen. Or some patients might develop the only symptom, which is enlarged lymph nodes. But again, the infection is self-limiting for them. It means they recover without any specific treatment. But as I said before, there are 2 groups of patients we have to worry about when we talk about toxoplasmosis, and those are pregnant women and immunocompromised patients. For immunocompromised patients, an infection can go systemic and become deadly, and it can affect brain, heart, lungs, and usually with the best treatment, sometimes it takes up to the year to get this infection under control. For pregnant women, this infection can cause spontaneous abortion, or if a female is infected on the early stages of pregnancy, this pathogen can cause severe birth defects. There's no vaccine available. For the treatment, we use anti-protozoal drugs. And the last group of systemic infections that we're going to cover today, those are helminthic infections. And we start with Schistosomiasis, which is caused by Schistosoma. It is a flatworm. It is actually fluke. Like all flukes, Schistosoma requires intermediate host, and as you see on this picture, they show you snail. Schistosomiasis can be found in Asia, Africa, Middle East. There's no cases of schistosomiasis in the United States, so that's why we don't have to know this infection in all details. But what you have to remember about this infection, once again, for years this infection can be not recognized, because schistosoma is one of those worms that has ability to cover itself with the proteins from human blood. So as I said, for the years, for decades, infection is not recognized, and the first symptoms that those patients might develop will be symptoms of hypersensitivity reaction. It usually happens when the immune system of those patients is irritated badly. That's pretty much what you have to know. And the last helminthic infection is Filariasis or elephantiasis. This infection can be seen in Africa, Asia. There are no cases of this infection here in the United States. This worm is a round worm, and it is transmitted by mosquitoes. And this infection infects lymphatic circulation of the humans. When larva of this worm is injected by mosquitoes into the skin of the patients, then it will develop into adult worm. An adult worm will produce even more larvae. Larvae are motile. They can move within lymphatic circulation, and while it moves, or as it moves, it can block lymph vessels. As a result of that blockage, patients develop severe swelling. That's why the second name of this infection is elephantiasis. If you look at this picture on this slide, you see this is a scrotum of the patient. It is almost on the floor. The bad thing about this edema is it is not reversible. Unfortunately, if patients develop this type of edema, there is no way we can reverse this infection anyway.